got the micro jig dovetail bit on the screen. I'm going to give you guys some tips and some parameters to at least give you a good starting point for when you want to go make these joints on your CNC machine. And so if you look over here, you can kind of see my first attempt. And this took, quite a few tries to get this joint tight, but that's when I realized that this radius just wasn't going to work out. And so I ended up switching from a 16th bit to an 1/8 inch bit. And that's where I got this tighter joint here. And one thing you're going to want to pay attention to is your pin spacing. Because right here I got 4 pins, so that squeezed them a little tighter together. And you can see that that just created a little bit more separation between the joint. And that's okay. You can make this work, but you just have to make sure that you have your pin spacing fixed and that it's set where you want it before you start attempting this. Because I basically dialed in these joints here, and then I started playing with the pin separation, and that's when I noticed I was going to have to do some more work. And so this one even bunched more together, and you can just see there's a little more spacing still. And so I'll go ahead and go into my tooling first and just show you what I had to do with my 1/8 inch. So I took it down to 50 on the feed rate because what was happening was when I was cutting these joints, when the bit would come up here, it would start to deflect a little bit and it wasn't cutting a straight line. So that's something to pay attention to with your 1/8 inch, is just making sure you have that feed rate at an adequate speed. And then we'll go ahead and go in and show you the parameters here. And so before I actually show you the numbers, I just want to talk about a few things in here. And so this W1 here, this inside radius, is hard set based off your bit diameter. And that's why I had to go to the 1/8 inch, because it automatically sets it to a 16th. And I'll show you here. If I click on that, we're at a 16th, but once I hit OK, it's going to bring that up to an 8. And so you want to go with an 1/8 inch bit on this. And then over here, if I mess with this at all, the W2, if I bring that up to 5/8, that's going to affect my W1. And so you see that jumped up into the fives there. And then another thing is if you mess with the degrees at all, you're going to have the same effect. It's going to mess with your W1. And that's just kind of like the geometry trying to work itself out to cut this angle. So you can't just make one tweak and everything's going to be good. You got to kind of slowly go around and dial these in. Because even if you start adjusting the depth here, that's going to increase your tail cut. And so then you got to come down here on your tail length and adjust that as well. And so we'll go ahead and go in and show you what I settled on and kind of what's giving me those joints in the picture there. And so this one here, dovetail drawer. These are the parameters that you're probably going to want to start with. This is going to give you a real good starting point and a pretty tight joint. And then if we kind of fool around, I wanted to do some wider pins, so I ended up going with this one too. And you can see my W2 is just a little bit wider here. And so if you guys go off these numbers, that's going to at least give you a good starting point. You're going to be able to kind of figure it out from there. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the offset setting. So the offset setting on your table is obviously how much you're cutting into your spoil board. And for these settings in particular, I was cutting into my spoil board at 0.25, so 0.25 millimeters. So if I surface down to 17.5 millimeters, then I put my board up there, I'm actually cutting down 17.25 millimeters. So that's going to be really important, because when you come in here on your tail depth, your offset is gonna adjust this tail depth. So it's pretty critical that whatever you're testing at, you make sure that you're always cutting with the same offset.